5, 4, 3, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
This is the Culture Clash.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of Culture Clash Live. I'm still got a little Andor things going on here. I'm with some blown away, but what we just saw the other night. Yeah, we are doing this on a Thursday night because we just couldn't wait. We were too excited, and we are here to talk about the last 3 episodes of Andor Season 2. Episode 10, Make It Stop. Episode 11, Who Else Knows. Episode 12, Jedda, Kyber, and Erso. Plus, there's a whole lot of other things that have happened in fandom in the last 48 hours. We're going to be covering them all here on the Culture Clash. But before I get to any of it, and before I zoom off to Jedda to meet my ultimate fate, I have to have a crew with me. And I actually, I've had a guy here with me the whole time. He may be my K2SO to my Cassian Andor. I know he'll throw a few guys over a bridge, maybe play some dominoes. But he is, of course, the co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network, the one and only Mr. Kevin Reitzel.
Andor, baby! Oh, I'm excited to talk about this, dude. Really excited. This has been a lesson in storytelling. I'll just say that right now.
Master class, as we would say it. Now, real quick, too, just a reminder, you are watching Culture Clash on the Fandom Podcast Network. But you know what? It's so big here, and we got a weird Morse code type message before the show started today, Kevin, and it was from the Drunken Gungan of all things. We don't hear from those guys a whole lot, but
I thought they were lost in space or something.
Well, they're lost, that's for sure, but that's a whole other thing. But it was actually from the resident Fandom Podcast Network Wookiee, or as we lovably like to call him, Dave Filclone. It is the one and only from What a Piece of Junk, Mr. Nathan Gooey Chewy Miracle.
Howdy.
Good to see you, Nathan. Welcome aboard.
Good to see y'all too. I'm on loan from the Drunken Gungan. They'll never miss me as long as I don't tell them that I disappeared.
Shh, don't tell them.
As long as you didn't take anything from Scott's cape closet, you're good.
Nothing that he'll notice. Just this hat. Actually, this is mine. I wear it quite often, but can't really wear it over these. So just for the intro, so you can see why I am Dave Filclone, because I am the real Dave Filclone. And I am here to use my access to the Dave Filclone neural network to talk about Andor and the whole season a little bit, but especially those last 3 episodes.
Excited to have you, man. Welcome aboard.
It is going to be a lot of fun. But two, just a reminder, guys, if you want to know more about the Fandom Podcast Network, scan the QR code if you're watching on YouTube right now. It'll take you to our main page where we can find all of the audio versions of our shows and our podcasts that might be exclusive to the Fandom Podcast Network. Kevin, it's still working, right? You tested it recently?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's working well. Check it out. Help us out.
Yep, absolutely. So give it a check out, guys. We've got a lot to cover with this episode, but just a reminder, this is a spoiler reaction show, guys. From this point forward, anything we talk about, especially Andor, we are going into the spoiler zone. So if you have not, for whatever reason, seen the last 3 episodes of Andor, what are you doing? Get on your Disney Plus, whatever you watch it on. Watch it, come back, either listen to the audio podcast or join us here on YouTube. We'd love to have you guys participate, give your comments as we're talking. We'd like to hear your thoughts too. It is all about Andor, guys. It has been that way for weeks, and it is for now because we at the Fandom Podcast Network love our Star Wars, and we absolutely love Andor. It's been great. Season 2, we are wrapped up. I'm a little sad, but we're still got some things to talk about here. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And guys, before we dive into it, though, I just want to give everybody a quick reminder what else you can find here on the Fandom Podcast Network, especially if you use that QR code I showed earlier. But of course, Nathan, you're here. What a piece of junk. What are you guys doing over at the Drunken Gungan?
Well, we are reacting to Andor, so we're going to go big in depth into these 3 episodes, and you can, of course, catch our last few episodes where we've talked about each of the sets of 3. And coming up after that, we'll be talking a little bit about Tales of the Underworld, which was the 6-episode set, animated set that dealt with Asajj Ventress and Cad Bane. Kind of a lighter fare. Quite frankly, not as good as Andor, but still really good.
Yeah, I need to watch that because I'm very curious about the Ventress stuff. So I'm looking forward to watching that. So, but we have other things going on. Of course, if you've been watching Culture Clash, you can go find all of our Andor coverage from this season. Been very excited. We've really enjoyed it. But we got other things going on too, including Time Warp. Kevin, tell people what we've been doing in Time Warp because it's a new year and a new season of Time Warp.
Yeah, we've been obviously talking about the 80s the last several years, but we decided to jump to 1990, where a lot of the films were, produced and filmed in 89, 88, and now it came out in 1990, celebrating its 35th anniversary this year. So coming up, we just did April last year with movies like was it Crybaby and Miami Blues, Wild Orchid, with shows like Twin Peaks, Living Color and Wings, and then we're going to be recording the newest one, May of 1990, where we talk about, of course, Back to the Future 3, Bird on a Wire, Cadillac Man, Tales from the Dark Side, Class of 1999, and the Top Gun of Apache Helicopters, Firebirds, starring Nick Cage.
And one Tommy Lee Jones as well, who
Sean Young, right? Too, if I remember correctly.
Very interesting cast there. But
yeah.
Too, Kevin, we just wrapped up over at the Union Federation. You ran a 10-part series on crew profiles of the Orville. We had a lot of fun doing that. You did a phenomenal job with that. I just got to give you your props there, but go check that out on the Union Federation podcast.
A lot of fun.
And of course, we threw a little wrinkle in thanks to our former co-founder, Mr. Norman Lau, at his suggestion. A little wrinkle to Couch Potato Theater, a new kind of subset. Be kind and rewind. You want to explain that to the viewers, Kevin?
Yeah, you remember watching a movie that you didn't like when you came out of the theater, and maybe the public opinion didn't really care for it very much, but then it kind of sits with you for a while. You might rewatch it on HBO or something, and you kind of start to grow fond of it again, and then you kind of look back of trying to figure out what went wrong with the franchise. Why didn't it get a sequel? And we have picked Green Lantern 2011, which is out right now, and we also just recently did John Carter 2012, and next we're going to be visiting the A-Team movie from 2010.
Just make sure we get BA the milk he needs before he goes on the plane. And two, we had a little fun with the regular edition of Couch Potato Theater. 20-year anniversary of Sahara, a great popcorn film. Matthew McConaughey is great in this. A lot of fun. We all love this movie. Go check out the Couch Potato Theater and then go watch Sahara. It's actually a lot, holds up better than what you think. Let me put it that way.
A lot of fun.
And then we are recording soon for the summer. We are doing a tribute to canon films. If you're a child of the 80s, you grew up on these movies in one way or the other. And we are kicking things off with not one, but a double feature Couch Potato Theater for the first time ever with American Ninja and American Ninja 2, The Confrontation, Kevin.
That is correct. Looking forward to talking some Ninja, especially American Ninja with Michael Dudikoff.
And we always got to double up on the Dudikoff. And Kevin, recording this weekend, you recruited some of our good friends to talk about just one of the guys, but you got a bunch of girls with you.
Yes, this is a movie that is celebrating its 40th anniversary, just one of the guys. And we're going to have Lacey on there, as well as our good friend Jennifer, who this was a request by her last year because she knew this anniversary was coming up. And this is a cult classic teen film.
Absolutely. And of course, too, the new season of Doctor Who has been going on. It actually is just about to wrap up on Disney Plus. Check out our good friend Dan Hadley. He has got everything covered for the new season of Doctor Who over on the Type 40 podcast and his great video channels as well on YouTube. Just look for Type 40 or the Space Book. But finally, guys, True Believers. Thunderbolts is out. Still the #1 theater movie in the nation. Might be changing come Memorial Day as Tom Cruise gets to go a little impossible missions on us. But we covered with our special team of Thunderbolts. We covered everything in our reactions and spoiler-filled show talking about Thunderbolts. We had a lot of fun with this movie. Kevin, have you started that limo service yet?
I got it hanging up right over there, my popcorn bucket.
There we go. But guys, we got other things to cover here on the Fandom Podcast Network. There's been a lot of news in the last few days. So, ladies and gentlemen,
Let's news.
I see you getting down with the tunes over there, Mr. Nathan. So.
That's behind the scenes stuff. You're not supposed to tell everybody. They can't see me.
Okay, John Cena. Just as long as you don't go heel on us during the podcast, we're good.
I'll wait till the very end of the podcast, at least.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we got a lot of things happening, and one of the biggest things that has happened this week, guys, was James Gunn dropped the new Superman trailer. I watched this, guys. I've been excited for Superman, but I haven't been sold on Superman yet. This trailer did a lot to sell me, and I was really impressed with what I saw. Kevin, I know you are feeling a little bit the same way I am.
Yeah, I was kind of ho-humming about it. Then I got a little excited, when I saw Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner. Is that who it is? Right?
Yeah, Guy Gardner.
Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, you got Nathan in there. And then I saw Guy Gardner pop up on the trailer for what was it?
Peacemaker.
Peacemaker. I'm like, he's going to be in Peacemaker. And then, of course, we found out that Peacemaker takes place after Superman. But after watching this trailer and seeing certain moments in it, it really made me want to actually see it like opening weekend. And just real quick, the scene where he falls to the ground in the hole and there's like an average citizen carrying up out of the hole, I thought that was great. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was a great moment. Now, Nathan, before I get your thoughts on the trailer, here's our obligatory, if we talk Superman, we have to have a Crypto picture up on this.
Absolutely.
Crypto the dog, he's so cute.
He is, yeah.
Now, Nathan, I know you're a big DC guy.
That is correct.
How are you feeling about this trailer and Superman?
It is, of course, a requirement that I be a big DC guy, since my name is Mr. Miracle, and that is an actual DC superhero that I hope someday will show up on the big screen if they ever get around to doing the New Gods, which I hope they will, because that plays into the whole dark side thing. But we didn't see any of that in this trailer. So it's much more of an Earth-focused thing. And I'm excited. I feel like one of DC's biggest strengths is the interconnected world. You have someone like Superman who is so powerful, and yet he exists in the same world as Batman, who is basically a human with some gadgets. But somehow they make it work. And this trailer shows us that, it's going to be a connected world. We're not doing, okay, here's Superman. Okay, here's one other hero. Okay, here's another hero, and then bringing them together. It's a pre-existing world where there are already heroes. Guy Gardner is already there. That implies some history with the Green Lanterns. So I'm loving it. I'm very excited.
Yeah, and just for you people out there, Kevin kind of hinted at it. Last week we got the first trailer for Peacemaker Season 2, which I'm really love around here too. But James Gunn apparently said, yes, there will be events that happen in Superman that will affect Season 2 of Peacemaker. So it is starting to connect. But guys, we talked a little DC, but we got to talk a little Marvel, because guess what, guys? Jessica Jones is back. It has been announced that Kristen Ritter will be back for Season 2 of Daredevil Born Again. They dropped the news right before a big Disney presentation here. She's reprising her role of the superhero turned private eye, entering the Marvel Cinematic Universe by being cast in Season 2 of Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again. Of course, she starred as Jones in the Netflix series in the mid-2010s. The series and actress generated considerable acclaim and awards at the time, and is considered a highlight during the Netflix era of Marvel Television. This announcement did come right before the Marvel portion of Disney's upfront presentations to advertisers this past Tuesday. Kevin, I kind of had a sneaking suspicion if somebody was going to return, it was going to be Kristen Ritter. I'm hoping this opens the door for some of the other Defenders to come in before, especially if we get Luke Cage back. I'm a huge fan of Mike Coulter and of Luke Cage, but this is great news.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the Jessica Jones series. I'm a fan of that character. I'm a fan of Kristen Ritter as well. I think she was cast perfectly in that role, and I feel that her and Matt will really work well together going forward with the bigger threat that's happening around the city, because I'm assuming a person in her situation and what's happening with kind of like this strong takeover of the city from, Mr. Kingpin himself, that she's going to have a lot to say about that and do about it.
Now, Nathan, I'll give you a real quick thing here, because I would like to know your thoughts on Daredevil Born Again season 1 as well as this news.
Absolutely. So I loved Daredevil season 1. I wish I had it with me. I actually went to a convention in South Carolina, South Carolina Comic-Con recently, and got to meet Vincent D'Onofrio and got him to sign. He autographed I play Marvel Crisis Protocol. It's a miniatures game based on Marvel. I have 3 copies of Kingpin, specifically so I could do different paint jobs. One has the classic white suit. One is from the movie, so that's not Vincent D'Onofrio at all. But my favorite one, after he appeared in Hawkeye and Echo. With the Hawaiian shirt, I painted one with the Hawaiian shirt and based it on the comic cover where he's beating up Spider-Man. So I got Vincent D'Onofrio to autograph the base of that miniature.
Nice.
It is epic. And he signed it both as Vincent D'Onofrio and as Kingpin, and with a red Sharpie. So it's a nice contrast on the white background to match the whole motif. So obviously, I'm very excited to see more of Vincent D'Onofrio. Now, as far as Jessica Jones, hers was the series I had the most difficulty getting into in the Netflix era. I actually turned the show off towards the end of, I believe it was the 2nd episode, and thought, I'm just not getting into this. But I thought, I should at least finish that episode. Turned it back on. I turned it off right before David Tennant showed up. I didn't know that he was in that show. I'm like, you know what? Never mind. I'll stick around. But even though I had difficulty getting into that show, it actually became one of my favorites from the Netflix era. Probably my second favorite behind Daredevil. So I'm very excited that she's coming back. I would also have liked to have seen Mike Coulter as Luke Cage. Not as excited about Iron Fist coming back, or maybe they could make some changes if he does. I think that was definitely the weak point of the Netflix era, and I don't think it's very controversial to say that.
I think that's fair, though. I will say to Finn Jones' credit, he has been doing a lot of martial arts training since Iron Fist ended, because he knew if he got a chance to come back, he wanted to be more up in his skills. So so under that circumstance, I hope he gets a chance. But getting Kristen Ritter back as Jessica Jones, who I love this character both in the comics and in the and now her being in the MCU truly proper, I can't wait. And I think her interactions with Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock and Daredevil are going to be great. So I am very excited about that. Something else we're very excited for, and we do kind of like our Slayers around here, especially a certain Miss Buffy. Well, of course, if you've been following, there has been a announcement coming to Hulu, a reboot, not so much a reboot, but a continuation of Buffy.
Yeah, let's make that clear. People are calling it reboot, but it's actually a continuation. Yeah. And
we had some major news break before we went, about 2 hours before we went live, because Buffy has her new protege, Kevin. We have our new Slayer, and it's a familiar face, especially if you're a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, Buffy reboot finds its new Slayer, Ryan Kira Armstrong, to star with Sarah Michelle Gellar in the Hulu pilot. Ryan, of course, was in Skeleton Crew, Star Wars Skeleton Crew, played Fern, has landed the lead opposite as Sarah Michelle Gellar in the Buffy the Vampire Slayer reboot, which has a pilot order at Hulu. Armstrong will play the new Slayer in the untitled Buffyverse project, which Gellar executive producers, in addition to reprising her signature role as Buffy Summers.
Now, guys, what's even greater about this, and we'll talk a little bit more, but a video has surfaced, and I am going to I have that video on cue. I'm going to play it for you now, especially if you're watching on YouTube.
Do we want to set this up first before we play it?
Well, a little bit, because it is Sarah telling Ryan a little piece of news here, guys.
Through a video conference, basically.
Yeah, video conference call, yes.
Telling her the good news.
Yes. So, guys,
This process has been hard, and there's been so many parts with like me being out of the country. And there was just sort of like one part of it that I just wanted to ask you, and I wanted to make sure that you were okay with.
Okay.
How do you feel about helping me save the world?
Good.
You want to be my chosen one? Will you stand by my side and save the world? Yeah. Ryan, we all love you. And from the second we all saw your tape, there was nobody else in our eyes that could do it, that we wanted to do it with. And I'm so excited to stand by your side and have you be my partner on this journey.
This is so exciting. Oh my God.
So I hope it's a yes.
Yes, for sure, yes. Thank you. I'm so excited.
Welcome to New Sunnydale.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Ryan, you've earned it. There's nobody else in any of our eyes. You are our chosen one.
So honored. Thank you guys. Thank you for trusting me. Yay!
Where's your dad? You want to tell him too?
Dad.
What do you think? Are you ready for this journey?
I just kind of overheard what was happening here. And I know that this is exactly where she's supposed to be right now with you on this insane new journey.
I know this.
Okay,
go.
guys. If you're not feeling a little choked up right now, you have no heart, because that was such a pure and honest reaction from Ryan, who I personally feel like in Skeleton Crew, she had a little Slayer attitude in there, Kevin.
Yeah, she was like the leader of the group pretty much in Skeleton Crew, and she went through a learning process as well. And what's funny is my wife, who's the biggest Buffy fan of all, was very skeptical about this continuation / reboot. We didn't know much, but she got a little more interested when she saw this and how they were planning on doing it, and that Michelle was coming back reprising her character.
I am very excited. Nathan, I know you're not so much into the Buffyverse. You like your stuff up in the outer spaces or superhero related, but I mean, we are talking about one of the all-time cult classics, and probably seriously helped define a generation of fans out there too. So I am very excited about this. I love this casting. I'm very curious to see what the directions they are going to happen with this, and how many more Buffy alum are going to return for this.
I'm excited for her as an actress, because she's going to have Star Wars under her belt. Now she's going to have Buffy under her belt. She's going to be very popular for public appearances, and I think that's
she will be very popular at conventions.
Yeah, frankly, she'll be set for life.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, at this point, yeah, because there is no way that pilot doesn't get picked up. Well, let's be honest here. But Nathan, we were talking about how you prefer your things more in the stars. We have some major stars.
Yes,
because we finally got the announcement of the release date for Strange New World Season 3. This is my favorite current running Star Trek show. I love this show. It might be one of my all-time favorite Star Trek shows, to be honest. Season 3 will be returning on Paramount Plus July 17th. They did drop a teaser trailer. I suggest you go out there and check it out. It looks like it's going to be a very fun and entertaining season. But Season 3 reconnects with the crew of the USS Enterprise under the command of Captain Pike, played by Anson Mount, picking up where things left off as the crew is facing a harrowing encounter with the Gorn. New life and civilizations await, along with a villain that will test the crew's grit and resolve. The new season will take the characters, both new and beloved, to new heights and dives into thrilling adventures of faith, duty, romance, comedy, and mystery with varying genres never before seen on any other series in the saga. If you watch this trailer, you know exactly what it's talking about. And Kevin, I know you watched it. I saw some familiar stuff that we haven't seen in this era of Star Trek, to my knowledge, as of yet.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil any of it, but I saw Patton Oswalt as it looks like a guest star in one of the episodes, and this looks fun. And one of the things that really attracted us to this particular Star Trek series is that they're getting into the episodic television, and that's kind of been their thing, instead of having this long plot thread throughout the whole thing and wondering if the last episode is going to pay off or not. I love that they're still doing that, and this is a great cast.
Yeah, I am excited. Nathan, what are your feelings on Strange New Worlds?
I am extremely excited, and I think Kevin hit the nail on the head with the episodic aspect of it. I think that's what makes Strange New Worlds the best Star Trek of the modern era. Star Trek, to me, is best when it's mostly episodic with some overarching plot.
Yeah.
Like in Deep Space Nine, you have the whole Dominion War. it's going on, and things do affect each other. But for the most part, each episode is its own thing. And that's where Star Trek has always had its strength. So I think
Well said. Well
yeah,
said.
because I think DS9 might be the one who's done the best overarching plot while still keeping episodic television without question. But guys, that is going to wrap up the news because it's time. We need to get into it. It's time to talk a little Cassian Andor and Andor. Okay, it has been a journey, a long journey in the aspect of 3 episodes every Tuesday night starting at 9 p.m. kind of leads to a late night and kind of a rough morning the next morning at work, but we love it anyway. We are here to talk about the last 3 episodes of Andor. Spoilers alert one last time, guys. We are about to dive deep into the episodes 10 through 12. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. Come back, join us. But guys, let's talk some Andor. I am so ready for this. Mr. Reitzel, can you happen to dive into the book of all things Star Wars and help us with this episode synopsis?
Yes, you got it. Okay. So we are talking about episode 10, Andor season 2, Make It Stop. A year following the events on Gorman, Lonnie warns Luthen that the Empire is building the Death Star and that Dedra has likely uncovered both their identities. Though he initially promises Lonnie and his family safe passage from Coruscant, Luthen kills him to maintain his silence. As Luthen destroys the comm systems in his shop, Dedra arrives and confronts him. Luthen attempts suicide and is taken, gravely injured, to the hospital as Clea watches from afar. Interspersed throughout the episode, flashbacks reveal that Luthen was an Imperial officer that defected after his unit's massacres Clea's hometown. Finding her hiding in his ship, he informally adopts her, and the two begin selling antiques while waging resistance against the Empire. In the present, Clea sneaks into the hospital and shuts off Luthen's life support system.
Okay, guys, because like last week, these episodes contain so much, we're going to give our kind of initial reactions to each episode. And then after we do that, we'll kind of go into the overarching arc of these 3 episodes. But Nathan, you're a guest. You've been experiencing Andor your own way through the Drunken Gungan. What was your initial thoughts on this particular episode?
This one was interesting to me because Andor doesn't even show up. His name is on the show, but we never see Cassian in this episode. And with the first set of episodes, I criticized them because Andor doesn't do a lot in those episodes. He spends most of those episodes as a captive, but I did not miss him in this episode. It was so thrilling, and I wanted to know more about Clea and Luthen, and I just love this episode. It's probably my favorite of these 3.
These are all incredible episodes, but I can understand that. Clea was a superstar in this episode. Kevin, what were your thoughts?
I agree completely. It's funny is I rewatched this one, I think 3 times, where I've only watched the other ones twice, because Clea, played by Elizabeth Delau, if I'm pronouncing her last name correctly, is a badass in this, but she's also tortured at the same time. And what I loved about the flashbacks that we saw is we got to not only get her backstory, but get Luthen's at the same time. We were kind of wondering what his situation was. I remember in season 1, it was like, is he like a hiding Jedi? What is all this stuff about Luthen? Because he was such a badass. He still is. And, him teaching her how to do things, and she wants to like react. And, when are we going to fight back? He's like, we're going to keep losing until it's time to fight back. And, letting her, teach basically the way that if you're going to be in this life, this is how you do it. This is how, and I love that we got the different worlds too, including a little shot of Naboo and a bunch of other things in the backstory. But it's also heart-wrenching because she's remembering this as she's in this, now empty safe house, and she gets her go bag, and she knows what she has to do. She can't let Luthen live because they're going to torture him and get information, and it kills her to kill him.
Yeah, but the great thing about it is too, even as she's doing that, she knows it's what she has to do, and I think that's what makes it even more powerful.
And how badass is she, by the way, in that hospital? I mean,
oh yeah,
Tom Cruise, who? I mean, come on.
well, especially when you consider what they talk about in the next episode, where they're thinking it was a team of people that came and did.
At least 3 people. Yeah.
At least 3 people. But speaking of the next episode, Mr. Reitzel, would you care to continue?
I will. All right. Next episode 11. Who else knows? Dedra is arrested and interrogated by Krennic, who admonishes her for overreaching and confronting Luthen alone. The investigation is assigned to Hirt, who identifies Clea, and Partagaz declares her as a public health concern to aid her arrest. In the safe house, Clea contacts Woman, who in turn recruits Cassian, Melshi, and K2SO to retrieve Luthen, despite Rebel leadership being fed up with their disobedience. Dedra gives Hirt insight into Luthen's communications, and his team tracks Clea to the safe house. Right after Cassian and Melshi enter to retrieve her, she reveals that the Empire is building a superweapon, but wishes to stay behind as the rebels on Yavin deeply distrust Luthen's cell. As Hirt's team closes in, K2SO enters the building, begins attacking the Imperials, and of course helps rescue them.
Another this one might have been my favorite episode because of the things with K2SO in this episode, seeing Cassian go into action, everything that is going on, and some of the twists that I was not expecting. This episode had a few things that I wasn't expecting.
I just want a quick message to my friends at DragonCon. Whoever does a K2SO cosplay, please do the one where Hirt is the human body shield.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
That was great.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. Nathan, your thoughts on episode 11?
It was another great episode, and we got to see Cassian in action. This is part of the reason why I didn't mind not seeing him in the previous episode. He got his chance to shine here, and we got some familiar characters. We got characters that we know from Rogue One, and it was awesome to see them kind of at the height of their abilities doing what they do. Because once we see them in Rogue One, that's kind of their swan song. They're going on a suicide mission in that movie. But here we see them actually accomplish their goals and make it out alive. I guess we don't see that by the end of this episode, but we get close to it. And with the ISB is closing in, we know they're going to survive though, because we see them in Rogue One.
Yeah. Kevin, what about you?
Yeah, man, I this is why we love Andor, because of these little missions. And, he and Melshi are becoming tight. I love that Melshi went in on that. But let's be honest, this is the K2SO episode, because we get to see KSO learning their version of dominoes, and I love how he's like crouched down, his knees are way up, and they're playing, and they're kind of messing with him a little bit, which is great. And then you just see him come in, and they're like, "Wait a minute, do we have a K2 helper here?" Nope. Wow! Throws him off the edge.
That might have been my favorite moment. Are you with us? No.
And he came to the rescue, and it was great to hear Alan Tudyk's voice, and of course, I'm sure, and he's doing all of the motion capture for it as well. And I could have used more K2SO throughout this entire series, but I'm glad we got that episode to highlight him.
Yeah, and just a note, while we have Dave Filoni here too, if Kevin puts a little blonde in his hair, he's Alan Clooney going on there.
I've been told that when I would cosplay with my characters with the blonde hair, I got the Alan Tudyk all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so that means that we just need the eyeline thing for you to wear on top of your head.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you and I can go. Hey, Star Wars Celebration 2027. It's going to be in California.
That is, buddy.
I'm trying to save up and go.
Well, guys, let's get into the final episode of Andor, episode 12, Jedda, Kyber, Erso. Kevin, do your thing.
All right. After K2SO, of course, kills Hirt and his team, But Clea is gravely wounded. Cassian, Melshi, and K2SO take her back to Yavin, where they are grounded for their disobedience. Much of the rebel leadership, including Bail, do not trust Luthen's intel, but Mon Mothma is willing enough to hear Clea out. Vel talks with Cassian, who convinces her of Luthen's integrity, and they toast their fallen comrades. As a rebel informant associate with Saw contacts Yavin begging to talk with Cassian, the rebel leadership realizes that the evidence is too great to be a trap and agrees to let Cassian and K2SO fly to Kafrene to meet with the informant. Clea accepts her role in Yavin with Wilman, Mon, and Vel. Partagaz commits suicide upon realizing he is to be arrested, while Dedra weeps in a prison cell similar to Narkina. Lastly, Mina Rao Bix walks into an open wheat field, cradling a baby.
Guys, this was our last episode of Andor. Kevin, I'm gonna let you kick it off. Give me your thoughts.
You know, it's interesting. There wasn't a whole lot of stuff going on action-wise, but the drama was just oozing. And, you know, Clea, it's interesting. I was kind of hoping to see a debriefing scene with her a little bit of what's going on, but you know, I think that she is a little. I mean, she's put her life on the line too many times, and I think she's has kind of a PTSD right now. So I'm hoping that you know, we don't see the end of this character. We can touch on that later. Clea is just fantastic in this. The whole Rebel Council kind of pissing me off a little bit, being kind of dicks and not, you know, being, you know, I mean, what do you have to do to not trust freaking Andor? You know, and I think if it wasn't for Andor rescuing Mon Mothma previously and shooting people left and right and her experiencing death at firsthand and what this all means, and she's the one that kind of says, yeah, you can tell your story. It kind of reminds me how the Jedi were portrayed a little bit of not really, you know, being pompous a little bit and too self-assured. I was kind of getting that feeling. And, you know, as much as I love the character of Bail's kind of like, you know, be a little jerky jerk. I'm just saying.
Maybe that's why Jimmy Smith was too busy to come back as Bail. It's like, yeah,
I heard cool Bail. I heard on another podcast that, you know, if you want cool, smooth Bail, you get Jimmy Smith. But if you want Dick Bail, you go to this one.
that explains why he's the man that K2SO or that Cassian doesn't like.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't get me wrong though. Benjamin Bratt was great. I was fine with the casting change.
Nathan, what about you? Your thoughts on your initial thoughts on this final episode?
So this is the episode of the three that I was least excited about. And I think it comes down to the prequel problem. We know where these characters are going to end up. So all of the tension that's happening at that rebel leadership table, I kind of checked out because I'm like, I know exactly what's going to happen. I know what decisions they're going to make because I've seen Rogue One. I would be very interested in getting somebody who hasn't seen Rogue One and showing them all of Andor and getting their take on this episode.
Oh, I would love that firsthand reaction. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have anyone to do that with.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem.
I think that would really change the context in this episode, though, and I probably would have enjoyed it more had I not already seen Rogue One.
I think for me, one of my favorite moments in this episode is when they're at the table and they finish the discussion, and Cassian goes, "Well, I want permission to go to the infirmary," and before anybody else can speak, Ma's like, "Permission granted." I love that little scene. I think what is so great about this episode for me was just, even though you know what's coming and you know the fate of certain characters, and we see the fate of other characters in this episode, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but the emotion of it and how they conveyed the emotion of this episode leading into what is going to be the events of Rogue One, and then to end it on the note they did, where, and again, I know I've seen quotes from Tony Gilroy. I wanted this episode to end on hope, and that's what you get at the end of this when you see Bix with Andor's son. And I think that more than anything is the most powerful moment of this episode, because now you know what Andor's fighting for something he didn't even know he had. And it makes it that much more emotionally powerful when you know what's going to happen to him in Rogue One, and he's not even going to know he was a father. And that's something that I just think about. I thought about almost immediately after the episode was over with. But guys, before we move on to a little trivia, we've talked about each of those episodes individually, but I want to kind of just get your thoughts too, because way Andor's come out with these blocks and everything coming in 3 blocks. These 3 episodes together, I guess the biggest thing is, and I think I know what everybody's answer is, but did they properly stick the landing of Andor? Kevin?
I think they did. Yeah. Because they did a good job with a lot of connective tissue of what is to come and certain things that we saw in Andor and reference to the rest of the world. And I feel that the performances that we got out of these characters and the actors portraying them was phenomenal. And most importantly is really just setting the mood. I mean, it is literally a dark time right now for the rebellion. And Andor is the darkest show that we've gotten regarding Star Wars, and showing really what the wars part of Star Wars is and does to people. And, one of my my only pet peeve, I'll just say this, of Rogue One was I wanted one of the crew to survive. And when I look at the characters that did not die at the end of this Andor TV series, I'm hoping that will change my mind what I feel about Andor, because in one way or another, I want to see Vel. I want to see these other characters that survived.
You want more Clea, let's be honest.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, yeah. And I want to see more of these people that put their life on their line for this, that the others died for, because I have not seen the tribute in Star Wars anywhere that thanks or shows tribute to the people of the Rogue One crew, other than calling a starfighter squadron Rogue Squadron. And I really would like to see that. And maybe we will with one of our topics coming up when it comes to Offspring.
Nathan, your thoughts on this arc together, these 3 episodes together, and did they stick the landing for you for Andor?
I would say they did stick the landing. This is probably my second favorite of the arcs. I did like the previous one a bit more, particularly the episode "Who Are You?" That was the one that took place solely on Gorman. That was my favorite episode of the entire season, possibly of.
Who are you?
Who are you? Reminded me of Inigo Montoya there. It's like, who are you? No one of importance. But regardless, I do think that these episodes did stick the landing. It does lead right up into Rogue One. You could realistically watch these episodes and then immediately turn on Rogue One. You can make almost your own little mini marathon here. Watch these 3 episodes, Rogue One, A New Hope, back to back to back, and they all connect seamlessly.
And then Star Wars right after that.
Yeah. You just keep going all the way through. I think one of the big things for me with these 3 episodes too, and Kevin, we've talked about this a lot, especially with the way these new shows are formatted with the shorter episodes. We're not getting like when we grew up with the 23 or more episodes a season. I really felt like they hit all the points without making it feel rushed or pushed in there. They got everything they needed to covered, and it felt natural flow. It didn't feel like, oh my God, we gotta push everything into this final episode. There's so many lingering questions. This show was a masterclass in writing, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about that too. But yeah, I think they absolutely nailed the landing. It gave you something that a lot of Star Wars things. It's kind of a Star Wars trope, but I think it's a great one. It ends you on a feeling of hope because you see Bix with the baby, and even though you know what Cassian's ultimate fate is, you still now have this. Oh, wait a minute, what's going to happen here? thing. And there's again a sense of hope, and it makes what Cassian's doing in Rogue One even that much more important. And he doesn't even realize what he's fighting for. And I think that's just great writing.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Yep, exactly. But guys, that's going to kind of wrap up our instant reactions. But we're not done covering Andor. Come on now, you've been around with us. It's time for a little Star Wars trivia. That's right, guys. We got a little trivia and some Easter eggs from this episode. I'm going to kick things off with Mr. Reisel, if you would care to give me a hand as we go along as well. But, Luthen always has some interesting artifacts. And in this case, he had a Natolan bleeder. Luthen shows Dedra Amaro a rare Natolan bleeder knife. One of the most well-known Natolans in Star Wars is Jedi Master Kit Fisto. Gotta love the shout out to one of my favorite Jedi, Kit Fisto, Kevin.
Well, he's my favorite Jedi of the prequel trilogy. I love Kit Fisto. He's the smiling Jedi. I love that. And we've gotten, a lot of Kit Fisto action, of course, in the Clone Wars television series. And I love the look of his character. And he smiles. I mean, come on. I just always thought that was really cool. Of course, he kind of went out like a punk, though, when they went to go arrest, I don't know, that Sidious guy or whatever. But,
I feel like if Sidious took you out himself, that you're not going out as a punk.
That's true. You got a good point there. But I tell you right now, I want a Natolan bleeder knife as a prop. I need to have one of those.
There's a lot of props from the show we could have, but
yeah,
Kevin, you want to help?
I mean, there's another Jedi prop in there too, because Plo Koon, the favorite Jedi of one Dave Filoni, his mask was also in there, or at least a mask used by the same species as him. So we got a couple of Jedi connections in there.
Well, one of the other great things about Andor has been the costumes and location. We got a little location trivia. Kevin, can you help me out here?
Yeah, the Woodland Flea Market scene in Clea Markey's flashback saw Andor's tandem unit returning to Black Park, UK, the nature preserve adjacent to Pinewood Studios. It was last seen in Andor Season 1, doubling for the Canary Village.
Okay, guys, and even a little bit of shout out to Rebels here, because a Twi'lek Calicori can be seen in Luthen's gallery. Of course, this is the historical relic representing a family clan's history, which we first saw in Rebels. So,
and stolen by some blue-skinned general. What was his name?
Some poop.
Yeah.
Some Smurf.
Some guy who, if they would have probably followed his plan, the Empire probably would have won. I'm just going to say that now.
Yeah, that was a good touch there. I like that.
But guys, we also have some Easter eggs, and we love our cute little Star Wars Easter eggs here. Kevin, you want to help me out with the first one, because we love our furry friends here.
Yes, the Tuca cats, or Loth cat, as some people might say, in the final scene between Luthen and Lonnie, has a collar that says Pix, named after a recently deceased dog of one of the visual effects artists, and dialogue also identifies the pet by name. How cute was this little creature?
I have 2 Loth cats in my life, but I could always use more.
So. Nathan, did you? I'm a big fan of Star Wars animals and pets. And do you remember a previous episode of Andor? There was like an old street lady, and she had like the space dog next to her. Do you remember that?
Vaguely. Yeah, I don't pay as much attention to the creatures, but anytime we see a Tuca, which now we've got a name for them other than Loth cat, I do love those.
Yeah.
Of course, the Loth cats are specific to Loth, but we had seen them in The Mandalorian. There was one on the planet where they were doing the farming, and I always thought that was weird because that's definitely not Loth.
Yeah.
How did it get there? But it turns out these are a much wider spread species.
Yeah,
they're cute and they're fluffy. That's all I need to know. But guys, serve me more of that. Cassian and Melchi are drinking something called Revnog. This is the same thing that the 2 Prexa Morlana officers ordered at the brothel in the first sequence of the first episode of Season 1. So a great little flashback call out to the first season of Andor, Kevin.
The first thing I thought of when I saw this trivia was our friends at the Scum and Villainy Star Wars themed bar that's there on Hollywood Boulevard. my friend JC runs. I hope JC and the crew there are working on their version of Revnog right now.
Nathan's already thinking, how many of them can I handle before I?
Yeah.
Can you put a shot of Rhydonium in there?
Yeah, no thanks.
That's the real hard stuff there.
Yeah. Kevin, have you been gambling with droids?
That's the best. Those are the best people to gamble with. The game that Cassian, Melshi, and K2SO play in Cassian's home is called Rianza. It was created by the art graphics department, heavily inspired by the ancient mahjong sets and dominoes.
Yeah, but that move, I've analyzed it so many times. You've never done something like this before. What are you doing, Kevin?
Yeah,
I love how they're messing with K2. That was great.
Yeah, I got the impression that it was similar to Liar's Dice with how they're betting. Oh, I've got 5 5s. Okay, I've got 10 10s.
Yeah, exactly. The little pirate shout out even there. So
yeah.
But we also went back to a familiar site because we went back to Naboo in one of these episodes. The bombing of the bridge takes place on Naboo. While the reason why Luthen chose that planet is unclear, it might be related to the planet being the homeworld of Emperor Palpatine. So it's always connected. Come on.
Yeah.
But Kevin, I have a special rule here. If I find some trivia that's related to Solo, I save it for you.
I don't know if you know this, Nathan, but Solo is one of my favorite of the film, so I'm a huge fan of Solo.
Look,
and
Solo gave us how Han Solo, whose shirt I am wearing right now, met Chewbacca. So it's one of my favorites as well.
There you go. I love it. Also, during the flashback sequence, we can see the uniforms of Mud Troopers. These troops were last seen in Solo, a Star Wars story. But seeing Mud Troopers just isn't the same without the extra arm sticking out, pulling up the slack, you know?
Yeah, that's true. But guys, that is going to wrap up our Easter eggs and trivia, but we're not quite done yet. We got a few hot topics to talk about. Before we get into those hot topics, though, guys, this is a quick chance to shout out the cast and crew because every week they have been superstars. This is one of my favorite casts of maybe anything Star Wars. Nathan, I'm going to actually kick things off with you. Anybody in this group of episodes that really stood out for you, and just what your thoughts on the cast in general?
Well, I feel like everyone did a tremendous job, and anytime you get Alan Tudyk in there, I'm automatically in. He is great in anything he does. But to me, the person who really stood out was Denise Gow as Dedra Miro.
Yeah.
Her character went through some changes and getting to the end and having basically a nervous breakdown, realizing that, oh my gosh, they think I'm a rebel spy. And she can look at the evidence and see, I understand why they think that. I would think that too if I were Critic. But there's nothing she can do. And she played that character perfectly. She made me hate her, but there's a big difference between hating a character because you just don't like them and hating a character because you love to hate them. And she was able to make Dedra a character that I loved to hate.
Yeah, I can completely agree with you there, and how she played her, and we're going to get into a little bit of that too. Kevin, I have a pretty good idea of who your MVP of these 3 episodes might be, but I'm going to let you spit it out.
Well, obviously, I think that it's Stellan Skarsgård and Elizabeth Delu as their characters, Clea and Luthen. Dedra, I'm a fan of as well. Denise Gow, she's great, but this is the type of acting that you really want to say, hey, wake up, Golden Globes, wake up, Emmy. Please pay attention to sci-fi television, and please give the respect that needs to be given to these wonderful performances that you always overlook. Those were my standouts, of course, of this arc. But overall, since this is the last episode, I did want to give a shout out to Ben Mendelsohn as Orson Krennic. When you look at the villains that we have seen on film, I feel that when it comes to villains, other than the famous Darth Vader and a lot of the Sith that we've seen, I think when it comes to Imperial officers, Orson has really nailed it when it comes to a very scary officer of the Empire. And I'm waiting to get better performances and more performances of Thrawn. Right now, Ben Mendelsohn is beating that right now, and I know there's a lot of fandom around Thrawn just because we know of the the series that we got from the original what do you call it, Legends, because Thrawn was fantastic in those. But when it comes to live action, I'm going to give Best Imperial Villains award to Ben Mendelsohn right now. But before I go, Kyle, this all comes down to the performance by Diego Luna as Andor. He proved that he can be the lead star of a TV series and showcase one of the best heroes of the galaxy throughout the Star Wars universe.
Yeah. For me, Elizabeth Dulau was phenomenal in her episodes. And with you, Nathan, Denise Gow was great. Diego, I here's the crazy thing about it is it's Andor's show, but he never feels like he's always the central focus. And there's so much going on. And for Diego to still be able to pull out that kind of performance and do that, I'm going to say for myself, Genevieve O'Reilly, as far as the whole season goes, might be the MVP of the season for last week's episodes. But everybody in this cast was just absolutely phenomenal, no matter what role. Kyle Soller as Cyril this season was great. Just across the board, this might be, like I said earlier, this might be one of the best casts in modern television, and maybe the best cast of anything Star Wars, from top to bottom. I'm just throwing that out there. But guys, we do have other things to talk about, including some of our hot topics, but we kind of focus on a few major plot points. And guys, the first one I want to hit on, because I think this is pretty important, is the fate of Andor. We knew going into this show, but there's so many characters that we became attached to throughout the season. But whose fate in the show surprised you or impacted you the most? Obviously, we have Jedda here at the end of the 12th episode. She is prisoner on Arcana 5, the same prison where Cassian was held during the first season. And obviously, too, we have where Koya ended up and the death of Luthen. I'm just kind of curious, whose fate was like the most standout to you, or was it something that shocked you? I'm curious where you stand on this.
I wasn't sure who was going to live or die, except I did have a feeling Luthen had a high possibility, and so that didn't really surprise me. I thought Clea was going to die, and I'm glad that she did not. I thought Dedra was going to die, and honestly, she should have been killed. I wasn't rooting for that. Don't get me wrong, but when you see someone fail like that in a pretty bad way and overstep her boundaries, I feel like just seeing her in prison was a surprise to me, but in a way, a good thing, because I'm curious to see where that goes, because her prison is going to be something that's going to be liberated later on. Does she become a rebel sympathizer later? Is her story done? But Bix, I thought I predicted Bix was going to die in the last series, and I was wrong, and happily wrong. But yeah, and when it comes to Imperial officers knowing when it's time to not go anymore, I loved Anton Lesser as Major Partagaz, and she's like, yeah, I'm going to pull out the DL-44 Super Soup and just end my life right now. He was great in this series. And when, he realized that, my time has come. I was in charge of these guys. They effed it up. Yeah. When you start letting leaks out of the biggest secret that, is out there. Yeah. But I guess the biggest surprise is Dedra. I thought she would be killed, to be honest.
I have thoughts on that, but Nathan, you are our guest. I'm going to let you.
So my biggest standout one was Leo Partagaz. I wasn't necessarily expecting him to survive, so I won't say it was the most surprising, but having it be that, okay, we're putting the gun on the table and we're going outside and we're not seeing it, but we're hearing it. I think that was very artfully done, and to me, that really stood out as a great way to tell that story. The one that surprised me, listeners of What a Piece of Junk will not be surprised that I was surprised by this, because every week, every single week, when we ask, what do you think is going to happen next week? Wilmon is going to blow himself up trying to get some Rhydonium. Every week I predicted that. Even this past Sunday, we said, what is your 99% likely chance it's going to happen? What's your 99% chance it's not going to happen, but you'd love to see it? I said, well, I'd love to see the Rebels crew show up, but I know it's not happening. But the one thing I know will happen is Wilmon will blow himself up trying to get some Rhydonium, and he never did. How did he survive? I don't know.
Guys, for me, I think the fate, it in ways surprised me, but it also is the biggest impact is Dedra, because I think a lot of us thought she was going to be killed by the Empire or by Andor, but in a way, this is the worst fate possible for her. She is completely broken. She is shattered. Her dreams are gone. She's lost everything, and she is now a prisoner. And she has to live with it. She has to live with what she did on Gorman. She has to live with having lost everything. For her, there might not be death. Death would probably be an easier punishment because she's not having to live with it. Here, she has to live with it. I think it's the saddest, honestly, the saddest ending for any of the characters. Truthfully, as far as the show goes, I think she's completely broken, and who knows what's going to happen with her going forward, and we don't know. But I think that was the most well done resolution to a character, at least in this story. I think we all knew Luthen was probably going to not make it out of this season, but I think how they had him die was so well done, so dramatic, and so fitting to have it be Clea going, I'm not here to rescue him. I'm here to kill him so he doesn't spill secrets. They don't revive him and he doesn't spill secrets. And knowing that whole episode, that was what she was going to do, was so just powerful. And obviously, Bix's fate, we're going to talk, I think we'll talk about that a little bit more here shortly, but yeah, just again, so well done across the board. And I don't think there's anybody's fate who I can really complain about or be like, other than maybe Wilman should have been blown up by rocket fuel, but just for Nathan, But guys, that leads us kind of
so well for him to do that. Anyways.
That leads us into our next topic here, and I find this. I think this is going to be an interesting thing because you find out Andor has a child, but here's the question: is this a character we could and should see in the future in a Star Wars project, or should it be left alone with that note of hope of just seeing Bix with their child? And because I think it's such a powerful shot and a powerful moment, but we know the history of Star Wars that a child is born and can become something pretty special within Star Wars. So I'm curious, Nathan. I'll kind of start with you because I know you guys will talk about too on What a Piece of Junk. But how do you feel about this? Should this be a child that grows into a character we become familiar with, or should this just be the end of the story for Bix and this child?
I think there's a huge temptation to write every detail of every story possible. And I think some things are better left alone. I wouldn't mind a check-in at some point in time, sometime during the Resistance and First Order conflict, saying, oh yeah, no, actually, he's alive. He's joined the Resistance or what have you. But I don't think the child needs to be a main character in a story. I don't necessarily want that. I think it's more poetic to leave this child as mostly an unknown.
Yeah. I'm kind of leaning that way with you. I think you'd have to have a really good story in place. But Kevin, what are your thoughts?
No, this character needs to come forward. This character needs to be a major player, in my opinion, because this goes back to my earlier comment about how I want the Rogue One and Andor players that gave up their sacrifice to be honored and remembered. And if there can be a character, this baby, and I'm calling it a baby boy right now because it's got a blue blanket around him. Okay.
That was my assumption too.
And big old feet like that are wiggling below and thing, that's got to be a boy. So, but anyway, I need this character to come to make a name for itself, because the name Andor needs to live on through the rebellion, the rest of the rebellion, and then of course soon come the resistance. I know there was talk that, oh, it's Poe Dameron. Like, no, it's not Poe Dameron.
No.
It's that was written as he was conceived at the Battle of Endor by to a couple. I think that was done somewhere, but I think it was a comic book. Is that right? Am I remember correctly?
Yeah, I think it was a comic.
But it's not live action, so that could be rewritten. So I don't know.
It was actually before the Battle of Endor, though. It was in 2 ABY.
Okay.
Which, so he would have Poe would have been 2 when Endor happened.
But we need to see more lineage of other heroes other than freaking Skywalkers. This is my point. And I need to see, like, oh, you're the daughter of this character. Because this is what we like about Star Wars, is that we're getting this continuity in this canon, but we need to see a bloodline other than the Skywalkers make it forward and make a name for themselves in helping, whatever it is to help with the good, that type of thing. So,
okay, guys. Last topic, and this is the big one. Real quick, I wanted to put this up here because this is a shot from the end of Rogue One, and I did this because it feels like there's some symmetry between these two shots. Are you guys feeling that at all?
For the audience listening, you're showing the picture of Bix holding the baby, and then you're showing the very end of Rogue One when Andor and
Jen
Erso are embracing when they see the incoming explosion coming ready to kill them. Yeah.
I'm just curious. Like I said, I feel like there's a symmetry with these two pictures and these two moments. Did either of you guys kind of pick up on that, or am I just going off in my own head?
Yes. Yes. One or the other. No, I believe there is a symmetry there. Bix is looking at a sunrise that we don't see. Cassian is looking at not a sunrise, but something that looks like a sunrise, and he's never going to see another sunrise in this picture. So I think it all goes back to Luthen's speech in season 1 about fighting for a sunrise that he will never see.
Yeah. Well said.
Mm-hmm. Well, on that note, guys, we are going to go to the big one now. Andor's place in Star Wars history. This was a show when it first came out, people were interested in it. This is a show that I think has been one of the best written things in the history of Star Wars, and just my personal opinion. What Tony Gilroy has done here is a masterclass in story writing. It also did something very important in that it broke something that George Lucas probably would have never allowed had he been still running things. Star Wars is to be written for 11-year-olds. This is Star Wars written for the people who, and I've said this several times on several different shows, this is Star Wars written for the people who grew up as children seeing Star Wars in 1977 or as young adults and have grown up with Star Wars since. And I think this is important because it shows that we can have different types of Star Wars and it's okay. And not every Star Wars has to be for everybody. But what this does for the history of Star Wars, what its place is, how it completely elevates Rogue One, which was already in my top 3 of Star Wars films. It's easily my number 2 right now. And you add in this on top of it, and the way it helps you get attached to the character of Andor. This is, I've said this on other shows, outside of Star Wars coming out, Luke, I Am Your Father, this might be one of the most important things that has happened in the history of Star Wars. And that's my call. Nathan, what about you, and what are the vibes coming from the Drunken Gungan?
I think you're absolutely right. This is huge for Star Wars. If I were to introduce somebody to Star Wars and tell them, okay, we're going to watch it chronologically, start to finish. But we're going to skip things that aren't really important, because there are episodes, as much as I love the Clone Wars, there are episodes that don't matter. Bad Batch has some things that matter, but yeah, you could skip a lot of that and not really miss much story. Same with Rebels. Maybe less so there. There's more long form storytelling in Rebels. But Andor would be a must watch on the list, which is amazing considering that we didn't have anything from this time period prior to Rogue One. For it to be such an important piece of film for Star Wars, for the overall story, and not have anything to do with a Skywalker, which, yeah, that goes,
or really even a Jedi.
right. Yeah. It's showing us a whole different side of Star Wars, and yet it's a side that most people in Star Wars were already living, like in universe, because the Jedi had been wiped out for a couple of decades at this point. So yeah, top tier, amazing, going right in the must-watch category.
Mr. Reitzel.
Definitely must watch. Agree with Nathan. Top tier. What I got out of Andor is what I want to see from Star Wars TV going forward, even in movies. Plan it out and pick a storyline that will fit in a certain timeline that people can all kind of get on board with. But when it comes to the storytelling, make it all connected, plan it out, and try to get the talent to really showcase their talent and do this. But what's interesting about Andor is everyone, in my opinion, was likable. All of the characters were likable, even the villains of the Empire. Some people may not call them villains, but they were all likable. That's what you have to do with storytelling in general. And my wife, who's a huge fan of horror films, but she's the harshest critic on them too, because she wants to be able to like the characters that are going to be in peril and maybe end up getting killed by the evil, whatever it is. But so many times she comes to me and says, nah, no one was likable. I didn't care if they died or not. This series, you do care if they die. And I'm just going to go back to the Acolyte. The only person for me that was likable through that entire series was Jexy, who killed too soon, and the guy that played the villain, the Jedi, who had one, or the Sith, had one of the best "Why I Want to Be a Sith" speeches I've ever heard from anyone. And me not caring for the rest of that cast really made me never want to watch that TV series again. Andor, I can rewatch. And it also makes Rogue One even better. Like, it needed to get better, Kyle.
Well, like I said, Rogue One is now my second favorite. I mean, it was already probably.
It's a master class on
favorite.
how to
Yeah.
do a series right. Let's just put it that way. And Tony Gilroy, please come back. I'll pay you $10. Come on.
Well, I will say this now. When I think of Star Wars trilogies, obviously there's still the original trilogy. That's probably still the greatest. My second favorite trilogy is going to be these last 3 episodes of Andor, Star Wars, Rogue One, and Star Wars. I mean, I think that's becoming a trilogy on all its
Nathan's
own.
nodding his head. He agrees.
Yeah, it works as a trilogy.
So I think we're in a very interesting place going forward with Star Wars. Right now, the only thing that's on the docket for live action television is Ahsoka Season 2. Everything else is movies. And I know Bob Iger has said he wants more. He wants quality over quantity, and he wants to get back into the theaters. So I'm going to be very curious to see what the future of Star Wars television will be over the next couple of years, because I think the focus is going back to the movies. But if this is really the big note that we end out on for a while on Star Wars television, what a way to leave us wanting more. But Nathan, I know you need to go here real quick, but I just a couple quick things before you go. Something Kevin and I always like to have our fun moments. And guys, I think we might all agree on this one. Basically, anytime K2SO is on our screen for these episodes, those are our fun moments of the episode.
Absolutely. I said it before, but I'll say it again. My favorite single moment of these 3 episodes was, "Are you with us?" No.
It's a long way down.
We're not even going to pretend here. Just nope, not with you.
I'm going to tell them I was kidnapped.
That one was good too.
Kevin, are you in agreement with us here?
Yeah, definitely the K2SO moments. And I love the game that they were playing. They were laughing and having fun. It was fun to see that. Also the loft cat or whatever it was. But there was one other very subtle moment that was fun for me that I liked, was that not only do we see Mon Mothma returning to her classic Mon Mothma look from Return of the Jedi, but I just love seeing her hanging out and eating on the table with the rest of the crew like a normal person, and not like, in her own quarters. That was a fun moment for me to see her just be one of the rebels. You know what I mean? I thought that was cool.
You say that, it makes me think of one other thing I want to ask you guys real quick, because I thought it almost felt a little bit like, oh wow, because we forgot Mon Mothma's husband. That final shot with him with another woman in the car, and he's going.
I believe that was the wife of the other guy.
Yeah.
So it says a lot, and how he ended up back with the car was interesting.
Yeah, I just thought that was like, okay, that felt almost a little out of place, but it was fun. So, lastly, Nathan, I'm just before we let you go and let you hype up a One Piece of Junk, just your quick thoughts overall on this second season of Andor.
I thought it was a great season of Andor. The first 3 episodes I didn't love as much. Those were definitely the weakest ones to me. The strongest ones, as I said earlier, were the third set of 3, particularly the Gorman. I knew a little bit about the Gorman massacre from Rebels, but seeing it made it much more visceral. And seeing Cyril die, Kevin, you talked about how, even the villains are likable.
Yeah.
I got a little choked up at the fact that Cyril died.
Yeah.
The little fascist prick. That there's no way anyone should be rooting for him.
He just wanted to be liked and accepted for his hard work, and
he was
he finds his guy and he pauses a little too soon.
He was starting to come around and realize, are we the baddies?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I actually predicted Cyril would join the cause, but nope.
I called his death. I called it.
Yep. Kyle called his death.
I would not rule out Dedra eventually joining the rebels. I think there is a possibility. We've got enough characters from Andor who survived, who are on Yavin, who could, say, break out some rebel sympathizers from a certain prison. And she certainly has beef with the Empire at this point. She could become an actual rebel at some point.
And we'll see if she's actually capable of smiling.
Who knows? Probably not.
Nathan, it's been really good having you on, giving our spoiler review here, man. Appreciate you. What's going on at the Drunken Gungan? You guys going to continue this, right?
Yes. Like I said, this Sunday, we're going to review these final 3 episodes. We're going to do deep dives into them. We've got a slate of 5 questions: favorite moments, least favorite moments, connections to the rest of Star Wars. And then we always have 2 custom questions. I can tell you right now, one of our questions is going to be, who sent Dedra the information? So we're going to talk about that. And you'll have to listen to figure out. I've already talked to the guys. I've already talked to the guys, and we've got 3 different answers, and none of them are fulcrum. So you got to listen to find out. But then once we're done with Andor, a little bit either later this month or early next month, we're going to talk about Tales of the Underworld, and then we'll move on from there with some other Star Wars projects. But there's not too much coming out, new stuff, but we will be talking about some of the older stuff here in a little while.
Cool.
With that, where else can people find you floating around the interwebs?
Well, nowadays you can mostly find me on Facebook under my real name, Nathan Miracle. There's not too many of those. So if you find the one that looks like Dave Filoni, That's me. I don't really do any other social medias at this point.
Nothing wrong
But
with that.
you can always find me on What a Piece of Junk on Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, pretty much anywhere your pods are cast.
Exactly. Well, Nathan, I know you have some important dice rolling to go do, but since you're here, before we leave, you have to give us our proverbial punch it. Thank you so much, Nathan.
Thanks,
we will
Nathan.
See you on What a Piece of Junk. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, that was great. Kevin, I have one more thing I want to hit on Andor real quick because I have a hot take.
Okay.
It's a very small hot take, but I think it's important. And so it is time for a little vomit from orbit. And I'm saving the button, Kevin. Work with me here. Here's my quick hot take on Andor. Besides the fact I think it's one of the greatest Star Wars things ever made, Andor has proven without a shadow of a doubt you can tell good Star Wars without a Skywalker or a Jedi.
Oh no, you didn't. Yes, you did. Well played. I agree. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. I just want to say thank you for joining us for all the Andor coverage. We'll wrap this up, but I am sure we're going to be talking a little bit more about Andor, but we're not quite done with this episode of Culture Clash. We're going to take a quick break, and Kevin's going to suit up. Okay, Andor has taken a lot of our time. Let's be honest. Basically, a 3-hour movie every week for the last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So there's been some stuff coming out, but there's a lot of stuff coming out. So we'll get back more into some buy it, stream it, or unsee it here. But guys, we love our Letterboxd, and the Queen of Movie Food is a little bit on the mend right now. We hope you're feeling better, Lacey. When she comes back to the Culture Clash, we're going to get her number. But Kevin, what's your number at right now?
Right now, it's at 177 films I've seen since January 1st, 2025. Keeping track of it. Of course, a lot of it has to do with our Time Warp podcast, where we're looking back at all the movies of 1990. And just a little tease, if you guys are interested, I watched this movie for the first time, The Class of 1999. And it's the same director that did The Class of 1984 back in 82, and also the director of Commando. And I have some fun thoughts about that. So
wait, Kevin, just to preview Time Warp just a little bit. Does The Class of 99 party like it's 1999?
No, not yeah. So, yeah. But I'm by the way, real quick before we go forward, Kyle, I did want to say that I did find your movie autobiography that you've been hiding from me all these years, and I was
trying to keep it secret for so long.
I was really surprised that you didn't bring it to my attention earlier. And I found the DVD, and it's called Escape from Alaska right here. And it stars Thomas Ian Griffith and C. Thomas Howell. It was originally titled Avalanche, and it also includes Jeffrey Lower, John Aston, R. Lee Ermey, Caroline Feeney. So yeah, there you go. I'm gonna have to watch this. You're in here as well, right?
Well, no, I have told them year after year after year of putting this out. That is me, not C. Thomas Howell in that role, and they did refuse to fix it. And C. Thomas Howell wanted no part of any weather in Alaska. Don't let him fool you. I just can't believe it's actually finally out on DVD. I didn't think it was ever past Betamax.
Anyway,
it can't even make Tubi, man. Come on.
I'm like, I got to surprise that one with Kyle. I found his movie, Escape from Alaska.
Okay, Kevin, let's get serious here, because it's time for you to suit up, because we got Ballerina right around the corner. But before Ballerina came out, well, in fact, you kind of knew about this, but I at least told you where you could buy it.
Oh, yes. I was happy for that.
A great documentary has come out, and it's all about John Wick, and which means it's all about Kevin Reitzel.
Yes. For those of you who know, I'm a huge fan of the John Wick franchise.
No, wait. Let's get it right. Kevin saved John Wick.
Yes, I did save John Wick.
You are in this documentary, right?
No. That's the only disappointing thing about this documentary. Yeah, I went on social media and I told people about John Wick, and then people went to go see it. But anyway, so John Wick. I'm a huge John Wick fan. I don't know if you know this or not. And I saw the trailer for this about a day or two before you let me know that it was available for purchase. I know they did a movie screening of it. They had a red carpet for it, and there's a picture here of Mr. Keanu Reeves on the red carpet here. And it's called Wick is Pain, and it's a documentary basically covering all 4 John Wick films. And I don't want to spoil it right now, but you can get it on iTunes for $9.99 right now. Our friend Jennifer, she got it on was it Amazon for like $7.50. You can get it cheaper there. Have you had a chance to purchase it and buy it yet, Kyle?
I've purchased it, but I have not had a chance to watch it. This is I actually have a day off coming up, so I'm actually going to. It is on my point to watch it before Ballerina.
IMDb says it's an hour and 20 minutes. It is not. It is like 2 hours and 10 minutes, and it flies by. I'll tell you that right now. Just a couple of the highlights. First of all, they actually have footage of them making the first film and going behind the scenes of how they almost have to shut down the production because they were 6 or 7 million short, and that they may not finish the film. And they have this on film, talking to, obviously Chad Stahelski and David Leitch and all the guys behind the scenes here. And that's fascinating. And you find out who it was that actually saved John Wick to be made. I saved John Wick, from being canceled, basically.
Wait. Kevin, I have a question. The person who saved John Wick, and I know the answer to this, a lot of people do, it's kind of come out, but were they desperate?
They were desperate, and they were a housewife. So, yeah. So they talk about that, which is great. But what I loved about it is that they actually have Chad Stahelski and Keanu Reeves in a room together looking at scenes from each of the films. And then sometimes they'll have a guest come in and sit between them and talk about the certain scenes and such. And they interview a lot of the cast outside of that interview as well about being in John Wick. So that was really fascinating. And when they talk about what Keanu has put himself through and his body through of filming these things, you're going to walk away amazed. One of the things that I really found amazing about this documentary is when they talk to the stuntman, and actually the guy that was Keanu's stuntman on some of the really hard scenes that Keanu doesn't do, and what he had to do and put himself through in danger. And it was funny when they would interview a couple of the stuntmen, and they said, "Yeah, man, I was killed like 7 times by John Wick, in certain scenes, redressed as bad guys, and you saw a lot of that." And I'm going to spoil one that I thought was really funny was, do you remember in the first film when he's going in and he's it was before the dance shootout, he's going through the private pools and baths. He's he's searching, and there's that really big guy that's in a Speedo, and he shoots him in the chest and then shoots him in the head, and he falls back into the pool.
Yeah.
Well, he plays another bad guy in another film later on with a beard, but he tells a funny story where he goes into a Trader Joe's, and one of the guys that works there, and I work at Trader Joe's, so I thought this was funny. He's like, "You look really familiar." And he says, "Yeah, I was in John Wick." It's like, "Really?" And then he comes back to the Trader Joe's, and the guy yells out, "Hey, it's the dude in the Speedo." They did a great job talking about it. They talk about the guns too, which is great. I was really, really impressed with this documentary. It gave me what I wanted from behind the scenes and how they did it. And it gets me even more excited for the Ballerina movie that's coming out. So, yeah. I'd love to get your thoughts on a future Culture Clash of what you think.
Yeah, absolutely. I will be watching this. I'm a John Wick fan too, and I'm very interested in it.
I hope they release it on physical media. I know Lacey does too, so we'll see.
Yeah. Well, guys, we have been talking Andor season 2 as long as with a lot of other big news today, and a little John Wick, which always makes Kevin happy. We like to keep Kevin happy around here. And again, just a reminder, thanks to Nathan for coming on as well, representing to Junk. Give those guys a check out our Star Wars official show here on the Fandom Podcast Network. They do a phenomenal job on the Drunken Gungan. And again, kind of sad that we're talking about the last episodes of Andor, but what if things
Yeah,
go back
it
and
hasn't-
revisit and watch?
It
I'm-
hasn't hit me yet. It hasn't hit me yet.
Well, Kevin, I'm thinking maybe not tonight, but at some point this weekend I will be rewatching Rogue One.
Oh, me
Got a
too.
feeling.
I already have it queued up and ready.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, again, thank you for joining us through all these great episodes of Andor. This is Culture Clash live on YouTube right now. All you people who've been watching, we thank you for joining in. Always feel free to leave some comments. We love your input during the show too. We'll give you guys a little bit of a shout out. This is the Fandom Podcast Network celebrating the state or condition of being a fan of someone or something, and hopefully making a few podcasts that feed your ears. Two, you want to know more? Scan the QR code on your screen. It'll take you to fpnet.podbean.com, our homepage and master feed for all of our audio versions of our podcast. Or stick around here on the YouTube channel. Check out some of our videos. You can always add to our hard target number. That's still a mind-blowing number for our hard target couch potato theater. But get a little Van Damme mullet. But nothing wrong with that. But give the QR code a scan to check out the audio versions of all of our great shows. We are all over the place on social media. Facebook, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Threads, Instagram, and Kevin, we are also on Blue Sky. Where can people find us on Blue Sky, Kevin?
Yeah, we're at Fan Pod Network on Blue Sky. I'm also on Blue Sky at Spartan Phoenix. You can also find me on X, Instagram, Threads, Discord, and Letterboxd at Spartan Phoenix. Where can we find you, Kyle?
Okay, well, you can find me on Facebook on all the great pages of the Fandom Podcast Network. You can find me on Blue Sky at A Kyle W. You can also find me at A Kyle W on X, and you can find me at A Kyle Fandom on Instagram and Threads. And speaking of Threads, check out the TeePublic Fandom Podcast Network store. Go to tpublic.com, search for the Fandom Podcast Network or the title of any of your favorite shows there. They've been having a ton of sales lately, guys. I'm just throwing that out there. And you can find all the gear here with our logos on it for our different shows, whether it's t-shirts, mugs, hats, pillowcases, phone cases. I think they even have backpacks now, of course, tapestries, pillows, all kinds of great stuff. We do get a little kickback here to keep the kaiju fed, the Tesseract powered up, and of course the dilithium crystals charged. But we appreciate your support. And more importantly, we don't care about what the kickback we get. We care about seeing you guys in our threads because you make them look good.
Yeah.
Just saying that here. Again, thank you for joining us for Culture Clash Live. We have been covering all things Andor. I need to go play some games of Space Paranoids, Kevin, if you didn't happen to notice the shirt.
Flins, baby. Love your Flynn shirt. That's
I should have never, ever written all those recognizer programs. I'm just saying. Guys, as always, thank you so much. It's been a blast talking Andor. We got some great stuff planned for over the summer with Culture Clash as well. And of course, we'll be keeping you updated on all the fandom and news and all of our reviews because there's a lot of movies coming out and a lot of TV shows still to come out. Real quick, I did want to drop too. It was also announced here in the last few days. Alien Earth will be debuting on Hulu on August 12th of this summer. So I am very excited for that. I'm hearing very good things, a lot of good things coming up. But for now, guys, thank you for joining us. And as always, respect each other. And more importantly, enjoy your fandom. We have done this thing and
Thanks,
we are
everyone.
out of here. Thank you, guys.